Good morning and welcome to Seaway Farms on this rainy Tuesday morning, and we sincerely hope that it stops raining soon, but in any event. So, as you can see, we have one planted here, so we do have some that are available to purchase, or else you can plant your own with any container you want. It doesn't really necessarily have to be a pot or in the ground. We have some sort of cool wooden boxes or wheelbarrows. I have some cool wheelbarrows, which is also sort of a nice idea for a herb garden. So, like I say, you don't have to necessarily plant herbs in the garden. You could do it in any container. So, step one, you need your container. Step two, if you just fill your container not to the point that it's overflowing with soil, but just so the soil level is sort of right below the container, just so that when you sort of go to plant your herbs, when you go to move the soil, it's not going to all fall all over the place. So the soil I used is basic BM6 that we use, which is sort of a premium growing soil. We also have potting soil. Potting soil is probably the best to use because potting soil is a mixture of topsoil, peat moss, and manure, which is three great things amazing for your herbs. So before you start, before you put the soil in the container, always really, really important to check to make sure that your container has a drainage hole. Some containers that we sell here do, some don't. Some come in with no drainage holes, Exhibit A right here, and as well the wooden containers do not have drainage holes. So what we've done is just taken a drill and had one of the guys just drill a whole bunch of holes, just so the water, when you do water your container, it's evenly distributed. So rather than one hole, this one's actually a small one, so it's okay, it can do with one hole. Because this is sort of longer and rectangular, we've done 5 drainage holes so that when you do water each plant, the water evenly can go down and be distributed throughout the container rather than all pooling and having to drain in one area. So super important if you give your container some drainage holes, and that way when you water it, the water will run out rather than gather at the bottom and work its way out. So if you can, now the other thing is, some containers are ceramic. This one does not have a drainage hole. So if you cannot drill a drainage hole, if the container is ceramic or something that you can't put a hole through, then an option is always to put rocks in the bottom. So you could fill about a quarter of the pot with rocks, and that'll sort of give it a little bit of drainage and somewhere for the water to evenly go, so that it doesn't just pool all at the bottom of your container. Okay, let's go choose our herbs today. So first one, we have a huge selection of herbs to choose from. So we'll start with this oregano. We'll just go through them as we sort of go down the line, and then we can just choose whatever herbs we're going to put in our garden. We're going to start with oregano, which is fantastic for, just the smell of it is awesome, which is fantastic for tomato sauce. I always put a little bit of oregano in tomato sauce. We have, leek's not really a herb. We have summer savory, peppermint, catnip, not to be confused with catmint. We have tarragon and sweet marjoram and thyme, and we could put a little bit of thyme in it. Our thyme's a small one, so let's pick some thyme here. And we could do, thyme is nice with chicken or potatoes or something like that. Garlic chives, great for potatoes. Lemon balm and dill, but we're not going to put dill because dill does get very, very large, so we don't really necessarily want to put it in a container. It's more of a garden. Swiss chard, again, it's huge, so we don't really want to put it in a container. And cilantro, my absolute favorite, besides basil, my absolute favorite, cilantro. So when choosing your herb, just if you look for sort of something sort of greeny and just something that that looks sort of like this, I guess. And so you are able to, oh sorry, hi. So yeah, so if you just do something that is sort of green all around, sometimes because these really kind of need to be planted now, They are a bit root bound, so sometimes that's why you get a little bit of yellow around the edge. But anyways, there's the roots, so it's got nice, good, solid roots. So it'll be great once we plant it in a larger container, the roots to be able to do their work and move. So yeah, so there we go. So we've got 3. Again, probably too big. Florence fennel is great, but it is sort of it'll grow into a bulb sort of into the soil. So we don't necessarily want to plant that in a container because you're going to have to uproot it eventually. Sage is another good one. We have Thai basil, which is quite nice. It's slightly more, almost more cinnamony, I guess, than your regular basil. My favorite, and we also have purple ruffles basil, which is a lovely basil as well. Very fragrant, but and just sort of a different look. It's sort of, you always see them in like nice restaurants, but it is sort of nice. It almost smells a bit more licoricey to me, like almost like a bit of a black licorice hint. And then we have my favorite, herb basil. And the smell of basil is absolutely amazing. You just really want to go home and cook a big batch of tomato sauce, because basil we carry through the year. Like, there's certain herbs that we really only carry in the springtime. Basil, we find ourselves doing seedings throughout the year because people buy tomatoes right into August and September, and it really, really goes hand in hand. And it's just so amazingly beautiful to smell. So I wish I could really transfer it to the camera here, but we can't. So when you're picking your basil, when you're going to use it for sauce or whatever you're going to use it for cooking, it's kind of nice. It's kind of important if you do pinch it, which you will get kind of growth shoots coming up. When you pinch it right there, sort of right where, I don't know if you can see that, but right where the new growth is coming and the one shoot is coming up, because this forces these guys to grow larger, and then you will get lots more basil, which is super important. So, and it'll just keep going, sort of, you'll have it year round, or somewhere else had to plant our herb garden. Okay, so we've already filled up our container with soil, and the next thing we're going to do is just to moisten the soil a little bit, just give it a little bit of water. And that's just not so, it's especially on a windy day if you're planting outside, so it doesn't go all over the place. So what to do, start with I always start with the herbs that are going to probably get the largest. I always tend to put them at the back of the container. And every time you buy a herb, you will get a little care tag with it. So important to keep the care tags, just in case you're going to give it as a gift or something, you know, just to kind of like let you know or remind you what you have, or if you're going to give it as a gift, it lets your hostess or a friend know what type sort of plant it is and how to care for it. So we're just going to carefully dig a hole here, and just make sure that you kind of keep the soil in the container while you're doing it, because you don't want to waste the soil. And we're just going to dig a hole and just carefully plant our herb in here, and then just not too tight, just sort of let the soil sort of fall around it. And our first herb done. The next one we'll do is rosemary, because that tends to get quite tall too. We have some large rosemaries right here, as you can tell. So obviously the more you pick it and the more you sort of harvest it, the more you'll get. So we're going to do our rosemary. And the other thing I was going to say, when you're pulling your herbs out of the pot or container, as you'll notice, there is a lot of them have roots that are really well sort of developed. So important to grab it to take the herb sort of by the neck of the herb and just pull it gently. And don't pull the herb out of the pot, but pull the pot away from the herb. So that way you're not really disturbing or destroying any roots when you're doing it. So again, just plant like that. And there we go. And then stick your second herb in. The third one, probably the tallest, is going to be your parsley. And again, very rooty. Lots and lots of roots here, which is good. So again, stick your your care tag in, and just move the soil away so that you're able to get your herb in, and stick your parsley in. There we go. There we go. And actually, this handle works well because you can kind of you can kind of train it to go here and there. The other thing you could do is maybe take a few, if you're planning on cooking tonight, take a few off just to sort of offset and again, remember, always important to when you're cutting or pinching the herb, the parsley, right here. Let's see, there's a good one. Pinch it right here so that you're going to force new growth once you pinch that part of it. So you're going to force new growth to come out of here, and you'll be able to keep harvesting all summer. So there's our third one, and then to turn this way here. Next one we can do is cilantro, and again, pull your tag out, and if you squeeze the pot a little bit, because this one again does have lots of roots, so just squeeze the pot a little bit, and it kind of forces it off, and pull the pot away from the herb rather than pulling the herb right out of the container. So. And dig a small hole and put your herb. This hole has to be slightly deeper. If the herbs are larger, then plant it slightly deeper, and then that way it won't fall over. Perfect. Okay. Now oregano is sort of a little bit of a climber. Not a climber, but a bit more of a trailer. So it'll sort of trail over the edge of the container. So that's a nice one to put right in the corner, right in the front. We'll pull our cure tag out, stick our oregano in, and again squeeze it, so it'll allow the roots to come out of the bottom. All the bottoms of the pots have drainage holes, which are important when you're watering. And dig a nice deep hole. We lost our tag there. And last but not least is our thyme. This one does not have as many roots, so you can pull a little bit of the soil away from so you're not sticking all that soil in there because there's not a whole lot of room. So you can don't pull the roots, but just sort of like squeeze it so that there's not a whole lot of excess soil. And then you can do your hole, and you don't have to do this one as deep because, okay. So you will notice there'll be some soil on your herbs, which is perfectly fine because we're going to water it anyways. And don't forget your little herb tag. There we go. So we have all of our herbs. Now this one was planted a couple of weeks ago, so it's a bit further along. But then again, once you plant all 6 of your herbs or 5 of your herbs, really important to water the herbs because they will need a bit of water once they go into the new container. Now, if you're feeling very creative or adventurous, you could take a paintbrush and paint a little herb's logo on it, or paint a little name, or paint a little herb, paint a little thing of parsley. If you are artistically inclined, that'll be one for next week.